Today we are talking effective prayers for extraordinary results, and we're going to talk to my friend Becky Edwards. Now Becky knows a lot about getting prayers answered, and boy, she was an answer to my prayer. So if you would like your prayers to be more effective, if you'd like to get more answers so that you can get that guidance that will help direct your life, join us for today's episode. How is it we can do some amazing and sometimes unexplainable things, like heal our own bodies by the power of our thoughts? Mother's intuition, the law of attraction. Can we really tap into our subconscious mind? Can we really create our own realities? It begs the question, are we novice gods? All right, hey, I'm really excited for you to join us today. I've got Becky Edwards here. We're talking about prayers. If you missed the last episode, make sure you pay attention to that. Jump back to that. She talked about the steps in praying and just super helpful things to get you really understanding how to get better prayers answered. Today we're going to talk about really taking that to the next level, how to have effective prayers for extraordinary results. And as we were talking off camera, she knows how to do this. So tell us, Becky, what do you do to really get just kind of more prayers answered, get your life guided more the way that you want it to be? What are you doing?
Okay, great questions. I love that. So one thing to consider is if you are building a relationship. Let me ask you, Scott, if you're building a relationship, what are some basic steps that you would do to make a relationship better and closer?
Well, I really want to ask questions. I want to learn more about the other person, want to really get to know him or her. And I think that's more about like listening and paying attention to what they're about, who they are, and
perfect.
Okay.
Beautiful answers. So if we bring those answers, yeah, good job. If we bring those answers over and we realize we're building a relationship with our Father in heaven, with our God, the creator of us, the creator of this universe. He is so powerful that he created this whole universe, and yet he's so intimate that he'll answer our little tiny hopes and dreams of our hearts. Like doesn't that just amaze you, that dichotomy there of he's so big yet he's so intimate? It's amazing.
When we moved into the house that we live in now, we were kind of one of the first houses up in this neighborhood. It's up in the mountains, and there weren't a lot of street lights up there. And I remember moving boxes in one night and just being stunned as I looked up at the galaxy, and you could see so many stars up there. And I felt so tiny in all those stars, in all the worlds that he has, and yet like we're moving into this house that I felt like was this huge answer to prayer. And I'm like, how is it possible he could know about me and my needs and my wants and desires when there's all this other stuff and more children out there? So yeah, it's kind of amazing.
It is. It's awe-inspiring. And we know from Scripture that our thoughts are not his thoughts. Our ways are not his ways. He just has way more ability, more capacity, more power to be able to answer all those prayers and be there for us personally. But it's incredible. So what I love to do is think of it as building a relationship. And before I pray, I haven't done this my whole life, but for the last while before I pray, I do a little routine that includes connecting. So I actually picture my Father in heaven right in front of me. I just picture his face and I picture his eyes looking at me with so much love, and it instantly just melts my heart. And I picture, sending back lots of love, and I just feel this connection. I feel like we're connected and that we love each other and we're close. And that is a really beautiful space to enter a prayer. Because if I'm sure you know, Scott, have you said prayers that are like, just check it off the list and there's no power to it? I have.
Well, as you were saying, you were visualizing him being there and listening to you. I went through a lot of years of really a lot of anger and frustration because I felt like my prayers weren't getting answered because I was asking for the same thing over and over again, and I knew it was a good thing and I wasn't getting answered, and it was kind of frustrating. But as I looked at my relationship with God at that time, I kind of pictured him like a lawyer with a clipboard, and he was checking off everything I was doing wrong I mean, it was a horrible perception about God. And so my
But
relationship
sometimes we have those
wasn't
misconceptions.
good. Yeah.
It's
And
good
it
to-
wasn't until I cleared that out that I was able to, get a lot more progress. But I love your idea of having, visualizing him there, wanting to hear from you. And it wasn't until I changed my perceptions and my relationship with him that things started to shift.
Yeah,
So
I love
thanks for
that.
pointing that out.
And if you have some of those same misconceptions, it's okay. I had some strange misconceptions growing up, and it's okay. We can clean those up and upgrade our experience with prayer, and it's never too late. There's always another level. So that would be my first invitation, is to really build your relationship with your Father who is in heaven. He is very loving. He's very generous. He's very kind. He's very forgiving. He is very powerful and all-knowing and all-powerful, but yet so intimate with us, with answering our little prayers. That would be my first suggestion. A second suggestion I would give is to pray with a journal open and pen in hand. And that might sound funny if maybe you were raised like I think Scott and I both were raised when we were little children. We were taught to pray with our arms folded and our head bowed and our eyes closed. And that's a good way to teach a child to have some reverence and be still and have respect, right? Well, I don't always pray like that. I often pray driving, and if I'm receiving some answers, I will turn on my voice recorder and grab those, because I don't know about you, but I want to show my God that I value his messages back to me. I value his answers. I value his little pieces to the puzzle of solutions I'm asking for, and having a journal or a notebook open with my pen or pencil ready just shows him, oh, she's ready to be taught. Awesome. So have you ever done that, Scott?
I like that. Well, I haven't done the voice record. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm just now starting to pay attention to any promptings and grab hold of those and not let them fall to the ground, basically.
Yeah. I think I've mentioned puzzles a couple times in the last video and this one, and I think of if you've ever bought a puzzle with lots of little tiny pieces. If you say we're at camping and we're doing a puzzle on the picnic table, what if a huge gust of wind came and scattered those? That would be so sad. So you want to grab the puzzle pieces by writing them down. Then the gust of wind won't take them away. Otherwise, we just tend to forget, right?
Yeah.
Do you tend to forget? I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I think also I'll start to get into a state of doubt, and oh man, I haven't heard from him for a long time. But in my journals, I keep several different journals. One I keep on my phone and my iPad that is just a bullet list of prayers answered.
Nice.
And so I'm able to go through those, and I just think, you know what? If he answered me before, he's probably going to do it again. He's probably not, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
He's going to...
You've had your list.
You're done.
Yeah.
We've taken care of Scott. His card's been punched.
Right. It's not like an amusement park where you only have so many tickets. You can keep going. I love that. So the first one is to build a relationship. The second one is to listen and write when you receive inspiration, promptings, answers, solutions. And I really believe, and I've just had so many experiences with this, that when we write those down, we not only retain them better, we're more likely to act on them, but also we're more open to receive more answers. It really does invite more answers. So one last piece that I would love to share, and Scott actually just touched on it, and that is gather evidence. Gather evidence that God does answer you, that he is in your life. And I'm going to share a little story. Quite a few years ago, I was inspired to do something very scary, like maybe the most scary thing I've ever been inspired to do, and it was to pull my children out of public school and start homeschooling them. We did it for about 5 years. We're back to public school with our last couple that are home, but it was scary to me. It was my tribe, our church group and our school group, those were my buddies, those were my people and my friends, and we did things together, and our kids, those were their friends, and to pull out of that kind of felt like we were being asked to move to another country, or it just felt really scary to me. And so I'm going to tell you what I did build my faith to be able to follow that inspiration. And that is, I built evidence that God is a God of miracles and he can work miracles in me. In other words, I felt that what he was asking me to do was impossible.
Okay.
I really did. Have you ever been asked to do something that feels impossible?
I think I'm right there.
Good.
I think what I'm doing right now feels impossible.
It's impossible.
So, yeah.
Yes. Oh, I'm proud of you. Good job. Good job for doing it.
Well, no, but you got to tell me the next thing because
Okay,
I'm
okay.
feeling like I'm on
You're right
my
there.
wit's end.
Okay,
Yeah, so-
okay. So this is I'm a faith-based mentor. This is a mentoring tool that I teach to faith-based people, and it's powerful. It builds evidence that God is a God of the impossible. I truly believe that. Do you believe, Scott, do you believe God is a God of the impossible?
Yes.
Yes, he is. Now this is a writing exercise, and I recommend you write a few sections in this list. The first section is people in the scriptures. So, maybe thinking of Moses, where he was, asked to do this impossible thing. He was safe out being a shepherd with his cute little family, right? And he was asked to go back into this dangerous place and free this massive group of people that he knew would not be easy. But God was able to guide his steps, tell him what to do next. Each obstacle he had, God gave him something to overcome. Like he said, well, I'm slow of speech. Okay, I'll give you Aaron. Well, what about this? Okay, I'll give you this. And he kept working miracles in his life. He parted the Red Sea. Over and over, we see miracles in Moses' experience with water from the rock, with quail, with all these different things that God worked miracles for Moses. So can you think of a scripture person that God made the impossible become possible?
Well, the whole scriptures.
Yeah, it's
full of
filled.
it.
They're
Noah,
filled.
you have
Yeah.
Mary, you have
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And I love those stories like Elizabeth, or those that have felt like they had a promise and it's too late. It's too late for them. I love the scripture that said something like God did not forget Rebecca, because she wanted to have children. Anyway, yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So scripture is a good place to write the first part of your list. And how I write it is I write the person's name and the miracle that God worked in them. So for Moses, we could write a whole list, right?
Okay.
Some of them, like for Mary, she conceived with being, without knowing a man. That's a miracle. Elizabeth had a baby in her old age. That's a miracle. So that starts the list. And what happens is the brain loves evidence. When the brain builds up enough evidence, it tips the scale. It's like a teeter-totter. It tips the scale to be more on the side of belief and less on the side of doubt. And we know that doubt and belief, or doubt and faith, they're kind of a constant teeter-totter, aren't they, Scott?
Yeah. I think that there's really only one really great force in the world, and it's faith. But fear is faith in reverse.
Yeah.
So if you're fearing, you're actually believing in stuff you don't want to have happen to you.
Yeah, that's a really good, and you could see that as a teeter-totter as well.
Yeah.
Faith or fear. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So the second place you can go in this exercise is people in history. So Scott, can you think of people in history that you admire, maybe some of your heroes, where they were given a situation that looked utterly impossible, but with God's help it became possible? Do you want me to get you started?
You get me started. Sometimes
okay.
my mind goes blank.
Totally
in front
fine.
of the camera.
I'm putting him on the spot. So I'll say a couple of my favorites. George Washington, winning the Revolutionary War. As I studied that story and read, 1776, the David McCullough book, I was absolutely stunned by the details. We should never have won that war. We were the most underfed. We were underfed, understaffed, underclothed, underblanketed. Like we were freezing. Yeah. And frozen and starving and way undertrained. Like there's no way we should have won that war. But with God's help, we did. And we are a land of freedom because of it. We're not perfect, but we're a land of freedom, and that's awesome. Harriet Tubman helping free slaves. William Wilberforce helping to end the slave trade in Britain. I mean, amazing heroes throughout history that looked impossible. Their task did not look like it would work. But with God, it worked. So that's the second piece, right? So we have scripture people, history people. Now a third piece is coming closer to home. What about you? What about your family members? What about friends? What about just people in your community or people that are alive today maybe that you read about, or from your congregation, or someone in business that you admire, whatever it may be. How have you seen God work impossible things, make them possible in their lives? And you create that third piece of the list. So you've got scripture people, history people, and then people in your own circle. And I'm telling you, by the time I made that list, and we actually have done this several times as a family, I've done it individually. I have one in a planner that's handy, so that if I need to build my faith and boost my belief, it's right there. But I've done it over and over when I've been asked to do by God or by life. Sometimes life just gives us something that looks impossible, a situation, a health challenge or whatever it may be, a job loss, whatever, that it builds our faith that God will help us now. He's helped them then, so he'll help me now.
So in that third component, do you also include yourself, like
I
previous experiences where you've had miracles happen in your life?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, in fact, we had a little family meeting a couple weeks ago where my husband did this with our family, and we taped the sign to our garage door over here. I'll show Scott afterward. That we wrote some ancestors. We wrote, that this ancestor had this miracle, and this grandpa did this thing, and that my husband was not supposed to be able to get out of his initial Army experience to be able to go to college, but we both felt prompted it was the right thing. So we kept trying these different angles, and finally he was able to, and got a really great scholarship to do that. And then they wanted him to go back and be an armor officer, but we felt he was supposed to go to law school and become an attorney. They kept saying no. We kept saying, but God said, we have to find a way. And so many of those personal miracles, if you take stock and write them in a list, what do you think that did for me, Scott, or for my family to write that list? Do you think it built our faith?
Oh, absolutely.
It was huge. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, it's almost spooky. This is what I'm going through right now, because I'm at a place where it looks really daunting, the steps ahead. But I started doing this. I didn't look at history. I like that idea. And I didn't look at scripture to put that into the list, but I looked at my own life. And I'm going to add to it now that you've given me this idea. But in times past, anyway, what I've done is I've done the same thing, and I will write the kind of the miracle, the belief, the new core story that's a part of me. And as I review that every day, it reminds me who I am and what my relationship is with God. So anyway, it's been helping me,
beautiful.
But this takes it to a new level.
Yeah.
So thank you.
So I call this a remember list.
Okay.
A man that I really admire named Spencer Kimball, he said remember might be the most important word in the dictionary. And what it does is it reminds us to give God credit for the successes and the good things in our lives. We remember, and as we remember, we draw into our lives more of his power. So this list is powerful that way.
That's cool. So hopefully that helps you with whatever you're thinking on how you want to make your prayers more effective, how you want to get more consistent prayers answered, and really how you want to get revelation and direction and inspiration in your life, so that as you're taking those steps into the darkness, you have sufficient faith to be able to take you through. I hope Becky's ideas help you out with that, and thank you so much for joining us. What do you think? You've heard our thoughts. Now let's hear yours. In the comment section below, share what impressions came to your mind. What did you get out of this? If you have had thoughts to take action, please do so. Always listen to your inner voice. It's your ultimate guidance system. Of course, the best place to take action is at scottwilhite.com, because if you join me for a free web class, I will reward you by sending you my purpose planner so you can have a physical guide to help you get in touch with your inner guide. What if you are a God in the making? That would mean there's purpose to your life, meaning to your challenges. You have a great work to do. May you have the courage, faith, and power to become who you were truly meant to be. See you next time.